Right, thank you. I would like to welcome all of you. This is a quantum system study group. We meet on Thursdays, where we read and share our thinking on the reading. The whole point of these philosophical and ideological sessions is to make available to a larger audience the thinking that went into the philosophical and ideological position of the Pan-Africanists who led the decolonization movement. And since Africa is not completely decolonized, since we are living in a post-colonial, neo-colonial state, Africa is still not free, it's still not liberated, and it's not united. Therefore, there is a need for combatants to be armed with the philosophical and ideological instruments to continue the fight or the war. So that's why these classes have been going on since the 50th anniversary of the independence of Ghana or thereabouts. So I'd like to welcome you all once again, to appreciate you all for coming, to appreciate you for your time, and of course, the money you spent attending these events, because you have to pay to attend these events online, pay for your internet connections, etc., etc. So the Kwame Nkrumah Trust appreciates you. Sure, the ancestors appreciate you, as do those who go on our YouTube channel and listen to our videos. So thank you all very much. We are going to read, after which we shall then share our thinking. So I shall read. I volunteer to read. After I read, somebody else can also read, if that helps. Yeah. It is a bigger chapter paragraph than we usually read. So please give me a moment. Thank you. Give me just give me one minute. Yeah. So yeah. So once again, welcome to all those who have joined. I'm sure there are more people who will join us. So thank you for coming, Sister Aida, Brother Sam, Sister Tapua, Sister Nancy, Brother Ifo, Sister Portia, Brother Horace, and Brother Pigeon. Thank you. Right, so here I go. In the first chapter, Nkrumah says, I discussed at some length how categorial conversion or reduction is possible, making free reference in the course of the discussion to the work of logicians. If spiritual phenomena are in fact the outcome of material phenomena, then it is hardly surprising that environment, which is but a disposition of matter, can enhance, intensify, even develop the consciousness. Furthermore, the mind-body problem is solved. The solution of the mind-body problem has sometimes taken the form of cutting the Gordian knot. The mind-body problem arises in the following manner. If one says that there are only two types of substances, matter and mind, and furthermore allows interaction between them, then the question arises, how there can, sorry, hold on. Let me go back. If one says that there are only two types of substances, matter and mind, and furthermore allows interaction between them, then the question arises, how there can be interaction between substances which are so disparate. Mind is purely active, thinks, and is unextended. Matter is passive, extended, and is without awareness. If one accepts the sole reality of matter, as extreme materialists do, or if one accepts the sole reality of spirit, as Leibniz must be deemed to have done, then the mind-body problem is solved by removing the conditions in which the perplexity arises. This is to cut the Gordian knot. For now, mind and body will not be disparate, but will either be forms of matter or both be forms of spirit. Thank you. Somebody else would like to volunteer to read, that would be great. Who would also like to volunteer to read? Thanks. Please feel free to read for us.
It's long, but I'm happy to have a go.
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you. Please proceed.
In the first chapter, I discussed at some length how categorial conversion or reduction is possible, making free reference in the course of the discussion to the work of logicians. If spiritual phenomena are in fact the outcome of material phenomena, then it is hardly surprising that environment, which is by a disproportion of matter, can enhance, intensify, even develop the consciousness. Further, the mind-body problem is solved. This solution of the mind-body problem has sometimes taken the form of cutting the Gordian knot. The mind-body problem arises in the form or in the form arises in the following manner. If one says that there are only two types of substance, matter and mind, and furthermore allows interaction between them, then the question arises how there can be interaction between substances which are so desperate. Mind is purely active, thinks and is unextended. Matter is passive, extended and without awareness. If one asserts the sole reality of matter as extreme materialism. So, or if one asserts the sole reality of spirit as lesbians must be deemed to have done, then the mind-body problem is solved by removing the conditions in which the perplexity arises. This is to cut the Gordian knot. For now, mind and body will not be desperate, but will either both be forms of matter or both be forms of spirit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Ida, for reading for us. I would like to welcome those who have since joined us, Brother Khan, Brother Coco, Brother Philip. And yeah, thank you for joining us. So we've had a reading. We are now in the position to share our thinking. And as you know, this is not like our WhatsApp group where people just ignore what other people say, or they don't even read what has been said. Or even when they read, they don't say anything, so you don't know what they are thinking. Which is why it is a position of CSG that this is our class. This is where those who are here are our members, not those in the WhatsApp group. Yeah. So as you know, we go around and we share our thinking. So Sister Ida has a hand up. So let me ask Sister Ida, is there a question or you want to start sharing your thinking?
I want to start with explanation of words.
Explanations. Yes. Yeah. Which one?
Gordian. When I first heard it, I presumed it was like cutting the belly button or something like that. But the Gordian knot, I don't know as such.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, the Gordian knot. Please, who can share with us what they know about the Gordian knot? Please feel free to share with us what you know about the Gordian knot. Let's start with that one first. The Gordian knot. What is the Gordian knot? They're gone.
Can we also look at the meaning of desperate in this?
Disparate just means different.
Disparate. Oh, okay.
Oh, it just means, yeah, it just means different. Yeah. Any other word, Sister Ida? So Gordian knot, and feel free to check the internet if that helps. Yeah. Yes, Sister Nancy.
So I had the same question when I read, and I did look it up as I was reading, and apparently it comes out of a legend, or don't recall. I think it may have been Turkey or some country where there was this knot that was so intricately tied that there were challenges to untie it, and the person who was successful would be able to become it like the ruler of that whole continent, I believe. So it was some sort of it was a physical, not a puzzle as such, but it was connected to some sort of a chariot or a cart or something of that nature. So it was just it's I think it's supposed to signify something that's extremely complicated, but in solving or breaking through the complexity, there's a great reward. Is how I understood it.
Yeah, thank you. Here is I hope you can see my screen. But I think I've changed the screen just so you know. So this is I believe you can see my screen. So this is what it says. It's a legend, as Sister Nancy said, it's a legendary knot from ancient Greek mythology. I am always very wary when I hear about Greek mythology, because what they claim is Greek mythology turns out to be African mythology, which was stolen by the Greeks. So anyway, the Gordian knot is a legendary knot from ancient Greek mythology tied by King Gordius of Phrygia in modern-day Turkey, as Sister Nancy was saying. An oracle foretold that whoever could untie it would rule all of Asia. In 333 BC, Alexander the Great solved the challenge by cutting the knot with his sword, creating a famous metaphor for solving a hard problem with bold, decisive decision. So thank you, Sister Nancy, and thank you, Sister Ida, for asking us to look into that. So that's where it comes from. There are images, I think, tied with it. Here are some of the images. This is this one here. Could be him cutting the knot, etc., etc. All right. Brother Pigeon, bring back the book. Thank you. Yeah, so I think I agree with Sister Ida and Sister Nancy in the way they've looked at it, in the sense that the Gordian knot is at the heart of this paragraph that we've read. The Gordian knot is a mind-body problem. What Brother Philip calls the oxymoron, which is the idea of some kind of contradiction, etc., etc. So, so let's share our thinking on what Gordian knot we need to cut as Africans who are trying to overthrow a system that does not promote our interests, a system that extracts wealth and value from us and leaves us with very little, and which is supported by almost all our leaders today, and is underpinned by balkanized Africa, and nations have been split between different balkanized states. In my case, we are in 4 different countries. I'm sure other ethnic groups or nations are in even more than 4. Yeah, so let's share our thinking. And as I said, we go around and we hear from everyone. We normally try and go by male and female voices in rotation. So I shall start with Brother Akan. Brother Akan Williams,
Yes, sir.
are you able to share your thinking? Or would you like to pass?
Where I am is not very conducive for
not
speech right now,
conducive.
but I'm listening
Right.
to what everybody is saying. I'm very interested in the paragraph. I've read it, I've
I'm
reread it,
sure.
and I've read it,
I'm
and I'm
sure
still
you have.
processing my thoughts. So as soon as I hear what everybody says, I believe I can
You
better
okay?
inform whatever I will say, or my contribution will be. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we are all required to share our thinking, but yes, you can pass and come back later. It is a safe space, so feel free to share your thinking, and we will not, at least here, we will not attack you or challenge you disrespectfully. Even though I have been accused of being disrespectful myself, it is, however, our tradition that people are able to share without being disrespected. That is, share their thinking. We also accept that if you share your thinking, be prepared for your thinking to be also challenged. We don't mind if you even disagree with the text itself. It's fine as long as you tell us why, to help us also reason. Yeah, so it's a totally free space, and Africa needs that. Yeah, because we need everyone to share their thinking to get the continent to move forward. So since Brother Khan is not able to share because of where he is, let me go to Brother. Yes, sir.
Can I share briefly, because I might not be able to share due to some conditions?
Okay, you can. Yeah, if you want to go first, that's fine. Thank you.
I'll share on the first and the second sentence just for now.
Okay.
Because the mind and body problem, I might have to take some time to think about it.
Right. It's not a laptop problem, is it?
Oh, is just the family issues around?
Okay. No, it's just to be sure, because we know we've got a new laptop, so there should be laptop problems. But no, that's fine. Yeah, please proceed. Thank you.
Now, Kwame Nkrumah is bringing back categorical conversion, which, Brother Kwame, sometimes you actually point out that people confuse it to what you call categorical conversion. That it is not categorical conversion, but it is a categorical conversion. Now, I've come across reduction and the word
Pigeon.
logicians.
Pigeon.
Yes.
Before you proceed, I want to make a quick comment on these two words. So, one of the indicators that I have used when I have come across people who have read consensus or claim they have read it is when they are discussing it, and then when it comes to this very subject, they say categorical conversion. And that is when I know, because of my own training, that they missed something when they were reading it. Because categorical conversion and categorical conversion, as you've noted, are not the same things. Thank you. Please proceed. Thanks.
Now, thank you for that, because the categorical conversion is very important here. And I've captured two words, reduction and logicians. Then it reminded me in that chapter 1, but did you call them logical tools or logical concepts? Because there was word reductionism, nominalism, and constructionism.
Yes.
But in this particular moment, Nkrumah is pointing at reduction, which I know probably could end up to what you call reductionism. And maybe, Brother Kwame, for benefit of maybe some of us, you might help me maybe explain those three I think they're called logical tools or logical concepts. Then that links to logician, the reductionism, constructionism, and nominalism.
Yeah, so basically, just so you can continue your train of thought, let me just be brief. Basically, what it's the question it's answering is, if matter, let's say water, as Thales said, is that which everything comes from, why do we have so many different things in the world? Why do we have cars and planets and human beings and dogs and cats and so on, and brains and so on? Why do we have different categories of things in the world if everything comes from the same matter? Yeah, so that is what those logical tools are meant to do. So basically, those three things you've mentioned explain on logical basis why it's possible. That's all. Does that help?
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, it helps. Even though I wanted you to go deeper a bit, but it helps.
There are two ways you can explain it. You can either explain it through logic or explain it using science. So you can explain using logic or science. And the three logical tools you've mentioned enable us to explain how come we have different things in the universe. And then science also explains how it is that we can have different things in the universe, and by which I mean empirical science. So that is what those two things are for. They are tools for us to understand. In other words, is it possible that the universe will be made up of different things, even though they come from the same underlying substance? And the answer is yes. And then we say, well, how do you know? The answer is because it can be explained using logic or science. That's it.
Oh, thank you. Let me finish a bit by saying, for example, in constructionism, it explains how you can construct something. Like we see now the plane is there. We can see maybe the vehicle running. We can maybe see anything else that you see today. And we can construct it out of something. And we can also reduce it to the original primary source of that. So we can do the reductionism or we can do the constructionism. If you, as you say, the environment and the universe.
So let me give an example of constructionism, if that helps. So how many digits do we have from the Hindu Arabic numerals? How many digits do we have? Well, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's it, isn't it? There are no other digits, are there? No. And yet, out of these digits, you can construct all the numbers you can think of, whether it's 1 billion, 1,552,000. Yeah. Any digit, any number you can think of, including standard forms, 0.0000, all of them can be constructed from these basic digits. So that is an example of constructionism, constructing something, however complex, from basic types. Then reductionism comes in this way. If you take any number, say the number 1 billion, you can trace it back to the same basic digits. You can see it's made up of 1 and 9 zeros. So that 1 and 9 zeros, all you can trace it back to those digits. So what is that? That is called reductionism, reducing that which is constructed back to its basic building blocks. Does that make sense, Pigeon?
It makes sense.
an example. And the third tool you mentioned, I'll come to that. So if that helps, please continue.
Now, then I get to the second sentence of that, having actually have that in mind, categorical conversion. So we can convert anything in the logical sense, either to form something, reduce it to something, and the third category, nominalism, Brother Kwame will talk about. Now, the second sentence says, now an example of this, that if spiritual phenomena are in fact the outcome of material phenomena, which means they are constructed out of material phenomena, of matter, or phenomena, then it is hardly surprising that an environment which is but a disposition of matter can enhance, intensify, or even develop the consciousness. Now that's where I wanted to to end a bit with my first thinking into this. That if we take that clear example on how we can construct everything else, then we can also explain the environment. Thank you. Let me pause there.
Okay. So when you're in a position to come back, let me know, yeah? Given the context as you've explained. All right, so let's hear from a sister this time. Sister Nancy, are you able to share with us? Sister Nancy? Okay, so Nancy doesn't appear to be ready. So let me ask another sister. Sister Portia. Sister Portia ready? Oh, yes, Sister Portia, yes, you're unmuted. Are you ready, Sister Portia? If not, I'll come back to you. Right, let's go to another sister. Sister Tapua.
As the sisters are ready, maybe I can try.
Yeah, let me check the chat.
Everyone,
There are messages.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
We can hear you now, yes.
Okay, sure. Pardon about that. Okay. Okay. I'll share my initial thinking and then my additional thinking. So the first sentence is referencing chapter 1. The second sentence is saying environment enhances life. The third sentence is connecting the mind, the connection of mind, body, and soul. It's feasible. The fourth and fifth sentence are doing more explanations of that third sentence. The connecting of mind, body, and soul is feasible. The sixth sentence is posing, well, what of other substances? It doesn't say substances per se, but what of other life forms? The seventh sentence is there's an active mind and then there is an unactive matter, question mark. The eighth sentence is if you remove the harmful conditions or those conditions harming the mind, body, and soul. So there's a push on that, removing the conditions that are harming that mind, body, and soul to be connected. And then the ninth sentence is the mind, body, and soul is infinite. Now to my thinking, and again, pardon the background noise. My additional thinking is simple, that just because it is said or proven in this life that all life forms derive from matter doesn't imply that it is all life forms deriving from matter. I just want to keep pushing that. I think our healthy, loving, and wise and knowledgeable ancestors knew a great deal. Very smart people, very street smart, book smart, community smart, spiritual smart. And I think they knew that what we think we know, we don't know. And that is beautiful. I was saying to someone the other day, life may not be the greatest equalizer, depending on your purview. Death is, or death is an equalizer. And so I'm so glad how it's set up. I'm so glad of that. Not racial capitalist systems. I'm talking the stuff that supersedes any systems. I yield.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing your thinking, Sister Portia, as always. So let's now go to a male voice. So some said they can't speak right now. I've just checked the chat. So let's go to Akan. Are you ready now? If you are, please proceed. Thanks. I see your hand
Yes,
is up.
ready. So, greeting to the gathering once more. You know, I've tried to listen to like I, s- like I said, I had some hindrances in my environment that stopped me from really paying attention. But I listened to what Sister Portia said, and I've taken a good look at this paragraph. What I see is the writer, Nkrumah, is seeking to help people get a grip of the various ways in which our personalities manifest, which is why I use that particular example of the Gordian knot. The Gordian knot, from what I saw in one of the Alexander's biographies that I watched, is a knot with that is so thick, like its diameter was about, was it a feet or so, and he hacked through it. So that is like, imagine if each coil that made the whole knot are like our different personalities. You know how we are in the mornings, we are a different sort of person to our kids. The same way we are a different sort of person to our elders, to our peers, to the market woman, to the bus conductor, all those different personalities making up um the different personalities. Then when he said this is on the fourth line, he said something about then the mind body. This is the fourth line from the bottom. Then then the mind body problem is solved by removing the conditions in which the perplexity arises, and that comes through duality. This duality is the sword that cuts through the what they call, through the Gordian knot, which is like all our different personalities. And the basics, how I just see it, is like insight. The insight is spirit. He said in the third line, he said, this is to cut the Gordian knot. For now, mind and body will not be disparate, but will either both be forms of matter or both be forms of spirit. So it's almost like the intellect is the knife that cuts through the different ways in which we can express ourselves. That's just basically how I see it from my point of view, especially from reading this paragraph.
Yeah, but Akan, why do you interpret the Gordian knot as psychological or personality? Psychological personality.
That's the
Or
best way.
go on.
I'm trying to put myself into the mind of the writer. You know, it said the Bible says that the letter is death, but the spirit giveth life. If I can see the spirit, the mind of the writer at the point of it, so I imagine that since referring to how to solve the mind-body problem. And the mind-body problem is basically a matter of personalities. We are all like we are different things in different
Yeah.
situations.
That's
And I
what I'm
believe that's
asking
what
you.
the mind-body problem.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
why I'm asking Akan. Why do you think that is psychological?
So is this why do I think it's psychological? Because I think that
Yes.
was the language
So I suppose what my question is, why do you not think that the reason my mind is the way it is because I was starved of water when I was growing up. I didn't have enough water. The house in which I grew up in, we always had water problems. So I never really had enough water to drink. That's why my personality is what it is. So as for what I'm asking is, why do you not think that the personality is itself caused by the material circumstances? Or I suppose my question is, if Alexander cut a knot, and that knot was an actual physical knot, why interpreting it as something spiritual or intellectual? I'm not saying you can't. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, yes. What is explanation? What is your explanation for reducing a physical knot, a material knot, to something spiritual or intellectual?
So I also like me putting myself now in the looking through Nkrumah's eyes. It's more like an allegory for what he's trying to refer to. That's the reason why he used the Gordian knot in this case. An allegory for what he's trying to refer to as profiling a solution for any individual solving the mind-body problem.
Yes, so I'm not saying it's not an allegory. I suppose my question is, why is the allegory spiritual or intellectual? Why is it not about the kind of house I live in, or the fact that I don't earn enough money, or the fact that I'm not tall enough? Do you see what I'm saying? Why are you not seeing the physical, the concrete, the material? Rather, you are seeing the spiritual. You see, so I suppose what I'm saying is that you are not unusual. Don't get me wrong. That's how we've all been brought up. So literally, Akan means if you want to speak to God, speak to the wind. So that's the context in which we were all brought up. So we tend to see the spiritual in things around us, and I think so. The question, so the reason I'm asking this question is, could you begin to see the material in things around you as well? Am I making sense?
How do I see the material in the air, for example?
But how do you see the spiritual in the knot? The same way you saw the spiritual in the knot.
Well, like I said, imagine like each turn that makes up the knot is a personality, and the best way I can explain personality is like spirit, like a leading spirit, something of that nature. That's how I see personality. So each of these knots now have the intellect. That is either the intellect can be stored either as fully matter or as fully spirit. That's how I see it.
Yes, because that is the context in which you're looking at things. So, for instance, the children in Ghana, you have the majority, we have a lot of children still studying under trees. Yeah? Yes?
True.
So that is a Gordian knot that needs to be cut. How do you cut it? You cut it by investment in education, isn't it? By building schools for the children so they don't study under trees. Agreed?
Okay, I think I see where you are coming from. You have a much more panoramic view of interpreting the Gordian knot.
So what I'm suggesting is that if you consider children studying under trees as a Gordian knot, the way to cut it is to invest in education for the children. It's not spiritual. It's just our elites have refused. They send their children to the best schools, some of them abroad, and they don't care about the rest of the children who are studying under trees. There are 30 million Africans who are not in school, 30 million across the continent. Our leaders don't care. So that Gordian knot is not spiritual, it's not intellectual. It just needs to be cut with concrete and material investment. So that's what I'm encouraging you to start seeing things. But that is what conscientism is asking us, because you can't solve problems if you're only seeing spiritual things everywhere. Because the problems Africans have are also material. Am I making sense, Brother Khan?
I'm with you.
Thank you. Right. So let's thank you, Brother Khan, for sharing your thing. Let's now go to a sister. Sister Tapua, I think you also had your hand up. So maybe you can speak now. I think you did say you can't speak earlier. Can you speak now, Sister Tapua?
Yes, I can.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Right. Greetings, everyone. I think I'll start off with the questions that I have, because I've got a few questions of things that I am not grasping. There's a sentence that starts, if one says that there are only two types of substances, matter and mind, and furthermore allows interaction between them, then the question arises, okay, I think it's the next sentence I need. Mind is purely active, thinks and is unextended. Matter is passive, extended, matter is passive, extended, and without awareness. I need help in understanding that unextended and extended. What does that mean? What are we referring to as? How would I identify?
Yes. So, Sister Tapua, those are the definitions of mind and matter as defined by the philosophers. So the philosophers have defined mind the way you are reading it on the screen. Yeah. The mind is purely active, thinks, and is unextended because it's in the brain. The brain is in the cavity, yeah, which is the head. So that's where the brain is. So the brain is not extended; it's inside the head. So that's their definition of mind, and the definition of matter by the philosophers, as we've seen, as you remember, they were saying that it even it can be described as stupidity. You remember when we looked at that? So it's saying that matter is passive. So they are saying matter does not have powers of self-motion. Passive, although you can have self-motion and still be passive. Extended and is without awareness. That matter that the rain does not have awareness, yeah, etc. So those are how matter and mind and matter have been defined.
My question is on, apologies. My question is on the extended, that matter is passive, extended. Yes. How do I identify matter that is extended?
Well, matter is everywhere. Isn't it? Matter is extended. Matter is extensive. Yeah. The air is extended, isn't it? Air is here. Where I am, there's air. There's air where you are. So we are both of us are able to breathe. But it's the same air, so it's extended, isn't it? But my brain is in my head here. Your brain is in your head wherever you are.
But together we can extend our thought.
Yeah, but it's talking about mind, not thought.
Yeah, we can extend.
Yeah, I agree with you. You can extend thought. Like we are doing right now. I'm extending my thought to you through the technology. You're also sending your thought to me. But my mind is here. Your mind is there.
Okay. The other question that I have has to do with the second
So, Sister
sentence.
Takua,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that the views are correct. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Nkrumah is not saying that he agrees with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's just saying this is how the philosophers have defined it. Brother Philip, you remember, Brother Philip's contention is that why do we even care about these definitions since they are not ours? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I ask a question. Yeah. If there are three people, yeah, if you know A, B, and C, and A stole your family property, B knew of it and kept quiet. If you want to pursue your family property, who do you go and speak to? Who do you engage with? A, B, or C? Nobody has answered that question, even though I raised it. As far as I know, because I left the debate forum, so I don't even know anybody answered it. But it was conveniently ignored by everyone, even though those questions were raised, which were very fundamental. You know, so I'm not saying that Nkrumah agrees with them, but if this is what the philosophers have said, and they are responsible for some of the policies that we are suffering today, whether it's through the World Bank or the IMF. In fact, Michael Hudson, one of the top economists of America, I was watching a video in which he said that the IMF and the World Bank are the most evil organizations of the planet. This is an American top economist who wrote a book on capitalism called Super Capitalism, Super Imperialism. He's one of the top economists in the world. And he is saying that the IMF and the World Bank are the most evil organizations on the planet. This is him saying that. So if these philosophers are responsible for these evil policies, yeah, shouldn't you see what it is they have been saying to arm our enemies? I think you should. So it's not saying that Nkrumah agrees with what we are reading. It's just that this is what they have said. Now, what do we say? Do we agree with them? Do we disagree with them? And if we disagree, what is our alternative? Because that is what this chapter is about. Chapter 4 of consensusism is about what philosophy and ideology are we as Africans going to use to replace the dubious, sometimes false, sometimes dominating, as Sister Portia would say, racist, capitalist ideas that have been imposed on us.
Okay. My next question or thought has to do with the last sentence. This is to cut the Gordian knot. For now, mind and body will not be disparate. That's different.
Yeah, disparate.
Mm-hmm. Disparate. But will either both be forms of matter or both be forms of spirit. In other words, we're not distinguishing between.
We have to decide as Africans.
Right. Yes.
which one is going to be for us? I mean, Brother Khan says, Brother Khan, in a way, is saying, well, he's a spiritual. Oh, he's gone now. So, you have to decide.
So the second sentence, I'm linking the last sentence with the second sentence. If spiritual phenomena are in fact the outcome of material phenomena, then it is hardly surprising that environment, which is but a disposition of matter, can enhance, intensify, and even develop the consciousness. I've linked these two because having lived in Europe and being an African, I've noticed the difference in spiritual disposition between Africans and the Europeans that I've come across. And this statement, if spiritual phenomena are in fact the outcome of material phenomena, what I'm taking from this is that the spiritual nature of Africans has to do with them material environment and the interaction that they have with the environment. And it is this interaction with the environment that has enhanced, intensified, and even developed the consciousness. And I'm looking at how Africans see nature as part of them, and Africans do not separate themselves from nature. We don't say we're more important than our natural environment. There's that connection there that we understand that we cannot survive without the environment, and the environment cannot survive without us. There's that complementary relationship. And I'm then thinking, is this why Africans are more disposed to being more spiritual and intense and have a different developmental consciousness of the spirit world? That's my thought at the moment. Thank you.
Wow. It depends on what you mean by spiritual and how you define spiritual. But can I go back to something you said? You said that the environment, that we can't exist outside our environment. So we can exist without our environment. But is the opposite true, though? I'm just asking. Do you think the earth will miss us if we all disappeared from it?
Absolutely.
The earth will miss us.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, thank you. We normally go to a mail and then back to film, but Sister Nancy, as your hand is up, please come in. Thanks.
Yes, I apologize for not being available. I heard you
not
speaking.
at all.
Okay, so I also had this same question you just raised. I completely take issue with the fact that nature would miss us. In fact, nature has a better chance of surviving without us, without humans. I think it was here long before we got here, and it will be here long after we're gone. But and I'm sorry. Yes,
hold on. Let her finish, Sister.
Okay. But I actually raised my hand because I think in this question, I think you raised some excellent questions. But I think Nkrumah is refuting this notion of the what was it, extended and unextended. And I think he's suggesting that, these are not two different things. And this is the problem, or the knot that he's saying is not really a problem, that, to separate mind and spirit, I think he's suggesting is an incorrect way of viewing the world, and also creating a problem that doesn't exist. So I think he's arguing that consciousness or the mind is really just what the brain does, or it's an aspect of matter, and it is very complex and highly organized, and includes things like nervous systems and experiences and environment and all of these things, opportunities, but it's an outcome of matter. It's not something separate. It doesn't have an independent existence, is I think what Nkrumah's arguing. So that was my response. I think as far as the extended and unextended, I think it's I guess the philosophers who assert that extended would be something that is physical in the sense of what we say, taking space and having weight and that sort of thing. And the unextended would be something that does not have those physical properties. And again, I think Nkrumah is trying to reconcile this idea that these two things are separate from one another. Thank you. I'll stop there.
So Nancy, so you would argue then that in this chapter, Nkrumah is arming us with the perspective that you have just shared. Yeah,
I think so.
That's what he's arming us with.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank
And I
you.
think
Thank you very
nature
much.
will be glad to see us gone.
Oh, not so much. Yeah,
I'm
not so
wondering
much.
whether I
Not
can-
so much on that question, but on the question of the way you explained the matter in the mind. That for Nkrumah, they are the mind is an expression of matter, and our brain is part of matter, and so on. So in that sense,
Can I be allowed to come
yeah.
back,
So
please?
yes, you can, and then Brother Ifo would share his thinking.
Thank you very much. Brother Kwame, the way you
Yes.
structured the question
Yes.
is by removing us from nature
Yes.
and saying, would Earth
Will
miss
matter miss us?
nature?
Yeah. Will Earth-
Yes. It's actually falling into the philosophers that we're
Yes.
not agreeing with, because
Yes.
we are nature, we are part of nature. And
Yes.
if we're removed from it, it makes a difference. It's almost like if we remove one of the aspects of nature, we would definitely miss whatever has been removed. Therefore,
Yes.
the way we structure that question should always include us as part of nature instead of removing us. And this is why we've come into the situation where we plunder earth, we exploit things because we've separated ourselves from it and think that we're better off without it. That's
Yes.
my response. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't argue with your answer, did I?
No.
I didn't argue with your answer because of the way I framed the question. Your answer
Yes.
seems to follow, because of the way I framed it.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that Sister Nancy's challenge of your answer is also not correct. That so, for example, just because somebody is your mother, and that your mother can be fed up with you, or your mother can throw you out of the house. Mothers have been known to throw out their children out of the house because of A, B, or C. So yeah. So yeah. So I'm part of my mother, but at some point my mother can decide, look, Kwame, I've had enough of you. You don't do that out of my house. Or fathers have been known to disinherit their children. But anyway, no, I did not disagree with your response. Right, let's go to Brother Ifo for him to share his thinking. Thanks.
Right. My thinking is actually in line with the last two comments, was why I put my hands up.
Sorry, hold on, Brother
Can you
Ifo.
hear me?
Yeah, Brother Ifo.
Yes.
Whenever members put their hand up, we are always elated because the reason we sometimes go from person to person because people don't have their hand up, so it makes it so you just have to choose someone. So when people have their hand up like you, Sapua, is really nice. So yeah, please proceed. Thank you.
Okay. So there is the colonial misunderstanding that we are separate from nature, and so for those who believe in the colonial misunderstanding of humanity as a separate entity from nature, those folks are actually a cancer on the earth, because the function of the colonial entity is to basically rape and pillage the earth. Whereas those who come from the indigenous belief of an interconnectedness and understanding that there is actually no separation between us. For example, in my life, I am Isoko. And in Isoko is the name for the people. It's also the name for the land. It's also the name for the water. And it's also the name for the air and the environment around us. So there's a deep, innate understanding of the interconnectedness of everything. And that understanding allows us to treat the earth differently from those who believe that they are separate from the earth and the earth is a resource to be exploited solely for their benefit, as opposed to an understanding that it's a relationship that needs to be nurtured. And if you're trying to nurture a relationship, you're concerned about the longevity of the actual earth that you're on. So I think those are fundamentally different ways of being. One has been proven over 800 years to be a cancer, and the other has been proven over since time immemorial to be healing and nurturing. And I think we need to be conscious of not picking up the consciousness of the colonial ideology as we try to separate matter from the mind and the mind from matter, and also ourselves from the land. That's my submission.
Yeah, thank you. Can I ask you a follow-up question?
Most definitely.
But you are not suggesting that the reason racist capitalism plunders the earth is because they think that you are separate from it, are you?
All interconnected.
Yeah, no, I'm asking that. You don't think
I said
that?
Yes.
Yes, what? They think they are separate from the earth.
Colonial thinking is about either or. So you're trying to find the separate. And I'm answering you, although I'm speaking a colonial language, I'm answering you like our ancestors. So it is yes to all of the above. They're interconnected. The thinking is tied to the actions, and the actions are tied to the thinking. Which is why we can have people who look like indigenous people, but they are fundamentally operating on the colonial framework. And so they will contribute to the raping and pillaging of the earth in which they have control over. Whereas if you actually believe that if you have a different belief system, then you will not function that way.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing your thinking.
Thank you.
Let's now go to a sister this time. I think the sisters are finished, aren't they? No more sisters left.
I'm here.
Brother, yes, Sister Ida.
Yes.
Are you ready to share now? I know you read. Would you like to share?
Yeah, I read. Okay.
Yeah.
My
If you like to share, yeah, please go ahead.
My problem with all this is, even when I heard the reading, and I heard it twice, to me, the fact that the Gordian knot was cut and it wasn't opened. When I first heard it, I just kept thinking, well, that's cheating. That's cheating. But after you've explained it a bit more, I realize that it's telling us that there's always a different way for things, and you don't have to. Maybe one is more elitist than the other, and that mind body doesn't necessarily mean you have to go on one path, but can choose a different path, even though it might look like, oh, you're not playing fair if it's been put as some rule. So I found that very interesting. It took me a while to it took me a while to realize, oh, it's maybe telling us that there's a different way and a different path. So in the end, I found that quite exciting. That there's always a different way to every way of thinking. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you too for sharing your excitement with us. So let's now go to Brother Horace, who had his hand up. So sisters have finished sharing their thinking, so we're not going to hear the brothers who haven't spoken. Yeah, Brother Horace, after you, Brother Sam.
Okay, thank you. Greetings to all. Let me go straight to the text that we've read today. So my understanding is that the author who comment says or asserts that categorial conversion kind of divides, let me say, it divides, should I use nature? Which word? Okay, it divides things into two, one of which he says is the spiritual phenomenon and the material phenomenon. And then he goes on to say that when these things exist in the extreme, like when you have the extreme of spiritual phenomenal and material phenomenal, they cannot interact with each other. And so all this time I've been wondering, um, how is he compelled to think that this thing, even if they are on their extremes, even if we say that uh, it's purely a spiritual phenomenon, cannot interact with a material phenomenon in the extreme ends? Because according to my thinking, um, I do suggest that things can still exist in the extremes and still have an interaction and still like be interconnected. I think the best thing that he could have said down there, where he I think decides to use the Gordian knot to uh, clear the complexity. I think he should have asserted that these things can exist in the extremes but still remain interconnected, the same way the world is today. It doesn't mean that we are same as trees for us to interact. A tree can just be a tree. I can still be human, but we still can be interconnected. We can still interact in our extremes, not necessarily to mean that we are both the same. I think if you can clarify on why did he think that in things existing in their extremes they cannot interact? Back to you.
Sorry, you mean who is saying that? Are you saying
Um,
Nkrumah is saying that?
yeah, actually, from the text, let me see. This is to cut the golden knot. For now, mind and body will not be disparate, but will either both be forms of matter or both be forms of spirit. That is the last line where he drops. He says it's either they all be forms of matter or both forms of spirit.
Right. So you are saying for you that means
Okay, to
that
me,
things can't exist in the extreme. Yeah.
Can you pardon?
You are saying you are reading to me that it's saying things can't exist in the extremes and yet interact.
That's what now Kwame tries to assert.
So that's your interpretation. Okay. So
Okay.
So we've come across the concept of primariness. Do you remember that? Primariness?
Not really.
Okay, so that could be because of when you joined us. So the extremes can exist, but one is primary. Yeah. So one is primary. So just use the example that you used yourself. So the tree and the human, who do you think came first?
The tree and the human.
Yes, who do you think came first on this planet? Was it the trees or man?
I think I'm unable to say that out clearly, whether it's the tree or the man.
Scientifically or logically, who do you think came first? The trees come first or men came first?
It's the trees. Yeah, sure.
Sorry, which one?
The trees.
The trees, yes, because the trees produce oxygen for us to breathe. Yeah? So it's not possible for us to have been here before the technology that produces oxygen for us to breathe is here. So it's a question of which one is primary, the tree or man. So it is that same order of thinking that you look at the two, matter and mind or matter and spirit, and ask which one is primary. If you say spirit is primary, the question is how did spirit create matter? And then if you say well, matter is primary, the question is well, how did matter create spirit? Yeah. So whichever you choose, you have to still have to explain how the primary one created the or supported or whatever the subsequent one. Yeah. So yeah,
okay.
that's I have. So it's not that Nkrumah is saying that the two extremes have to exist separately. Yeah. But he's asking us as Africans, what do we think? And I think as Africans, we don't think that when a man is involved in an accident, it's all just down to matter. It's all just down to the car brakes failing. We think, hold on, are you sure there's not some spiritual dimension to this accident, or some mental dimension to this accident, etc., etc.? So Africans, I think we've always seen the universe as a intertwining of both matter and spirit, and that is why consciousness is an African philosophy. Because what you're not discussing now has nothing to do with well, it has, but it's not saying that for us to defeat colonialism or neo-colonialism, we have to adopt the racist capitalism mindset. That's not what it's saying. In fact, it's saying that we must look for solutions now in our own African, conditions of existence, and that goes deep into our ancestral roots, etc., etc. Okay. If you want to come back, Horace, do, and then I'll move to another brother who hasn't spoken. I've seen your hand, Sister Poa, just so you know. Horace, you want to come back, and then I'll go to Brother Sam.
I think I'll come to you specifically to explain on the last part.
Okay. All right. Feel free to contact me privately. I have said anyone can contact me privately because people are not responding in the WhatsApp group to things we share. So there's no point spending time. So Brother Philip and I have been engaged in private discussions on things that we both want to clarify for ourselves. And I think that is a better use of my time than sending text to a group that doesn't read or doesn't attend meetings. So yeah, so Brother Horace, feel free to contact me privately. Not just myself. We have other brothers and sisters here that also understand what we are discussing, like Brother Coco, Brother Sam, yeah, Sister Portia, Sister Paul. You can contact them as well, yeah? Thank you. Brother Sam, please come in.
Thank you, Brother Kwame, everybody on the platform, and thanks for all the inputs that have already been delivered. I don't think I have a better explanation of this, except to say, I always do this for myself, to say why all this? And for me, the answer is simple. Until we remove or get ourselves out of the Western material world and way of thinking, until we can understand all these logicians and experts that Kwame has given us from the beginning to where we are, where it exposes that they might be seen as logicians and experts in the Western world, but they are all interpreting the world in the eyes of the Western philosophers, aimed only at oppressing other nations on their behalf. So we as Africans, Kwame is really going to that bottom point. And when he comes here where he says we must cut the Gordian knot, I think he is categorically saying we as Africans need to liberate ourselves. And to liberate ourselves is to see things through the eyes of our own African way, through the philosophy he has already given us, that we must go back to our communal knowledge and systems, and we can integrate them with whatever we have seen. But that must be our starting point. And for me, that is what we need to do, because true liberation is not going to come with all these half measures or beliefs that we are exposed by the Western world. And all of them, what they are saying, let's wait for God. He will make our lives better in the future, in the coming world. And this is where Kwame is saying we need to cut that knot and see things in our own eyes. And once we do that, practice what we understand and which has already been laid by our ancestors in the past. The communal world that we never had orphans, we never had poor people amongst us because we knew how to live and share everything as a people. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brother Sam. Let's hear from Brother Philip, please.
Hi, good evening to all, and thanks to the group for the good work. I think Brother Sam has summarized what Nkrumah is trying to say in conscientism. Bob Marley said, get up, stand up for your rights. And I think Nkrumah is using philosophical language to say exactly this. Furthermore, as Brother Kwame said earlier, to put it crudely, there's no God anywhere going to save you. You have to save your own selves. And this in a nutshell is what the book is about. If we want to delve a little bit deeper and into his philosophical discussions, he's talking about the entropy of matter. He's talking about the dialecticism of matter, dialectical materialism. So within matter, there's entropy, there's diverse views, diverse opinions. It's not smooth. And out of this unsmoothness comes forth into the spirit, into the mind, ideas, ideologies, and so on and so forth. The Gordian, the Cartesian duality poses a stumbling block to this path from the material into the spiritual, because it is saying they cannot communicate. And Nkrumah has spent this paragraph and the paragraph before very, very strongly making the point that they can't communicate. And as we go on, we'll see that he goes on to talk about how the social conditions should give rise to thinking. So we move from the matter into the immaterial, into the spiritual, into the thinking, and so on. And I think that fundamentally, this is what Nkrumah is trying to say. Nkrumah here differs from Engel, he differs from Marx, who are also dialectical materialists, but they have only one category. For them, there's only matter, there's no spirit. And so if there's no spirit, then there's the Cartesian duality doesn't apply. And Ziegel, is it Ziegel or some Z guy who, seems to think of one category of spirit? Again, if there's only one spirit, there's the Cartesian duality doesn't apply. But the point he's making is that the material conditions should galvanize our thinking, solutionizing, and that thinking, as he said, men without thought, thinking without action is what you call the paralysis of analysis. So from that thinking that comes from the entropy of matter must come forth action. That's how I read Nkrumah so far.
Philip, what do you mean by entropy of matter?
Dialecticism. That is where, so entropy is where there is no clear order. You know, Nkrumah said in one of his speeches, life is full of contradictions. And yet, out of those contradictions that occur within matter, that occur within society, solutions can come into the mind.
But if something is dialectical, does it mean there's no order?
Dialectical, if I want to look at it etymologically, from the word dialogue, from discussion, from different perspectives, and out of all those, you can include unfavorable circumstances, which is what Nkrumah was starting from. What is his problem? His problem was the unfavorable circumstances of the African, and so from there comes solutions, ideas. My boss used to talk about positive conflict, so that normally the world will see conflict as negative, but he was bringing my boss was bringing a different idea, that conflict, doesn't necessarily have to be destructive. It could be that different perspectives can yield a richer output.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing your thinking with us. Sister
Okay.
Tapoa, let me hear from you before I go to Brother Coco.
Thank you. I'm coming to this text from the point of view of psychology, because psychology is the scientific study of mind and behavior. So if we're thinking of mind, we're thinking of mind interacting with environment, that's matter, and you get a resultant behavior. So I'm thinking of the Gordian knot. I think my thoughts arose from the contributions made by our brother at the beginning when you were asking them why psychology, why he was referring to the psychology. If you put the Gordian knot in front of 4 or 5 people, the way they approach providing a solution is based on and originates from their mind and past experience. And that in itself forms part of their spiritual perspective of the knot and how they deal with it. So you will find people riveting back to their souls and their spirits and pushing to interact with the knot in a way that solves the problem. This is why I think Nkrumah then says, what's the point of separating the two? Because the two are linked. Mind and how you interact with your environment gets more intensified depending on the environment that you're in and your own experiences. That's the contribution I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your thinking. Let's now go to Brother Coco, please.
Greetings, comrades.
Greetings, brother.
And thank you for this opportunity. But
thank you too for coming.
I will complain and say, why do you leave me last? Do you want me to get the crumbs when everybody else has had the big chunks on the table? But on the other hand, that to me is an honor. I'm joking when I say I'm complaining. I'm honored to be here, because what that does is I get to hear different perspectives. I get to be enriched by very powerful thoughts. All the brothers and the sisters who have contributed tonight, I thank you, because that is how we do it in an African way. we sharpen each other, we help each other. And that enables me to go back to Sister Ida's point that there is always an alternative way. There is always an alternative way. Malema Julius Sello, when at Oxford, when he delivered a lecture at Oxford, some of the students there asked him whether he was radical. In fact, the person who asked him, I think, was of African extraction. And Malema answered him in a very direct way to say, that is wrong. Don't listen to what the media are saying. I espouse radical thought. I'm not a radicalist, but I'm a radical thinker. So what we are seeing here is Dr. Nkrumah encouraging us to not take things as they are, or take the Euro-Christian thought as gospel truth. We need to think outside the box and say, what can work for us? What is useful for us within of the African, which can help us? And think like that, and think, if this works for us as Africans, be pragmatic, take it and use it. Stop being stuck between the two different extremes of radical spiritualist or radical materialist. This is what he's trying to say. And I'm glad you raised the IMF and the World Bank, because that was going on in my mind before you raised it. So you actually took that right out of my mind. Because in my area of work, I work as an economist with the World Bank, and the IMF in a central bank setting. So I remember talking to a couple of my friends in New Pan-African Agenda, and they asked me a question. They said, but why, if you have all of these resources in Africa, all of these economists in Africa, why are we still where we are? Why haven't we changed things? And I started to think, I said, you know what? We have been socialized. We have been conditioned to stay within the European lens and do things as they do it. Because if you read the papers that are produced at the IMF, produced by the World Bank, all of them have to follow the same structure. You have to pass robust checks. You have to be a scientific paper, but most of them are useless. You can just throw them out because they are not looking for solutions to problems that affect people. I think I presented a paper at one point, a presentation before on the IMF, most importantly, the Bretton Woods institutions. They are there to maintain the continuity of the current world order. Hence, there is no way that we can be radical thinkers coming from that environment. It's meant for the system to continue operating as it is. So I have said that sort of trying to make people aware what Dr. Nkrumah is saying, but actually going back to the reading itself, there is that, what he had said before, categorial eyes. That categorial eyes is a fixed conceptual break between mind and matter. So we need to move away from that radical or that rigid boundary between the two, because if you come to think of it, there is a lot of interaction between them. And if you follow the spiritual, the idealists, they will say everything is ideas. even your body or mind is what you think it is. And if you follow the extreme materialists, they'll say everything is matter. And then they will solve that. So in a nutshell, the dualism is broken down, whether you're going to the materialist or the idealist, but they are not really saying which one is the right one. They are not. But we need to look at the consciousness way in which we are looking at the metaphysical foundation. Again, let's think carefully. Why is Dr. Mkuma so infatuated with material? He's talking about that because he needed to wrestle our thought from the Eurocentric lens, the Eurocentric way of thinking, and come back to the African way of thinking, or come back to ourselves, our material resources, and say, what can we do with our material resources? Don't get so hung up with what the Western philosophers were doing. Think that you can do this yourself. That's why he was so emphatic on materialism. But now you could argue that he's in a way attacking the extreme materialists and saying, if you just think the world is just matter, then you are wrong. You are missing the point. Hence, he's talking about the metaphysical foundation here. And we talk about metaphysics, then there's epistemology, and there's a social philosophy. And then we move on to political action. Remembering what he said in the beginning of this chapter. And all of those is in a nutshell, in one sentence, is mind-body problem arises only if matter and mind are treated as absolutely separate substances. Once we understand that mind as a development or organization of active matter, the apparent gulf between body and consciousness, it disappears completely. So consciousness emerges from matter, which is the truth, right? But does that mean consciousness is merely reducible to matter? Or does consciousness acquire genuinely new powers once it emerges? So there is that element where we know that the environment in which we live, language, family, education, society, all of those, they are relational and developmental. There is a point on matter being influential in what consciousness is. But consciousness doesn't just arise from a matter or the mind. It comes back into where you live, the environment in which you grow up. And that is really, really important. It's a cycle. It's a cycle of life. It isn't just one. It isn't just ideas. It isn't just about matter. It's all of them together. Allow me to stop there. Thank you, comrades.
Thank you very much, Brother Coco, for your extensive contribution. Your point has been noted. We'll try not to leave crumbs for you to pick. So I think at this point we've heard from everyone who has spoken. Everyone, I think, has spoken. And so the time is 13 minutes to 9, end of the